This is Seymour Rocks from Down Under. I'm back again. I just want to make a few comments and have some reflections on what I said the other day because something has really struck me in the interim and it really bothers me. So, usually, the climate change deniers accuse the mainstream, the governments, the IPCC, the media of lying about climate change. Yes, uh, there are lies, big lies from these sources, but the nature of these lies is the very opposite of what these people are saying. In fact, actually, we're getting a cover up of reality. It's always been somewhat of a mystery to me as to why there has been, quite correctly, a panic about the melting of the ice shelf uh, in Greenland, and yet an eerie silence about what is happening to the polar ice, even though it is clear what is happening, at least to those that are looking. So, if I take last year as an example, everyone is happy when the news comes out uh, from the authorities that sea ice extent is still short of the 2012 minimum, and maybe, including this year, even way short. Even the near-term human extinction crowd last year were willfully taken in by these figures, and they even held a giant party to celebrate this and proclaimed loudly, "We have another year! Wow!" I prefer to go not by misleading data and not around theories, because that's really, I agree with them, but they are only theories about what would happen after a blue sea event and how quickly. So I prefer to go just by what I see in front of my eyes, and then I make my own conclusions from that. So I do, however, have a hypothesis, and if you look up the definition of the hypothesis, that means that's a working hypothesis. It means that I don't really have evidence for it. I'm speculating as to why this should be the case. So they can write in this way about Greenland because even if it is happening 70 years, now that is 3 generations earlier than previously expected. It's because despite all of that, it's still in the future, and it gives them the chance, gives them all the time, or at least the illusion of time, for them to reshape the economy as, as, as they want it. However, if the Arctic ice disappears, then all bets are off. And we're talking probably about years, possibly months, as opposed to decades for the shit to hit the fan, as if it hasn't already hit the fan already. So the melting of the Arctic sea ice is something that our rulers do not want any of us, to know. So they will use data, they will use anything they can to hide this reality. And well, even though these conclusions are my own, I think the facts point definitively in that direction. So enough of my own speculation. Here are the facts. Yesterday, I used the term fraud to describe the reporting um, on the Arctic sea ice, and I was specifically referring to the National Snow and Ice Data Centre, who we all look to as a great authority. And I really meant it. So let's just go through this quickly. This is the graph that they've produced. So now look at this. And let's just see what they have to say about it. From August the 1st to 14th, sea ice extent declined at a daily rate of 91,000 square kilometres, still above the 1981 to 2010 rate of decline of 71,000 square kilometres during this period. However, this is still below the decline of 112,000 square kilometres per day observed in 2012. At the beginning of the month, the 2019 sea ice extent was well below 2012. Because the decline through August was slower, the 2019 and 2012 sea ice extents are now close to each other, and the gap is presumably widening. Because 2012 is a leap year and blah blah blah, our tracking follows the day of the year. August the 13th is August the 14th in the non-leap years. The new ice extent for August 14th is 5.04 million square kilometres, approximately 100,000 square kilometres higher than for August the 14th, 2012. Well, that may be technically correct, but it's a damnable lie, in fact. So this is the position that they are painting. So basically anything here that's all ice extent. There's no differentiation. Whereas let's compare it, say, with Climate Reanalyzer. Now that gives a far more accurate sense of what's happening. So your area of intact ice is not this, but it is in effect, it's in effect this, which is far below 2012. So let me just explain where I'm coming from. Imagine that you had ice that was only a foot or two in thickness, that was basically slush, and it had many holes in it, in the ice. Technically, you might say that there's 15% ice, because that's the criteria of the National Snow and Ice Data Centre. So you could be talking about, refer to this as sea ice extent, as I've just explained. So that would be misrepresenting the situation. And in fact, it is, because that is the actual situation that we do have. We do have ice that is half a metre to 1 metre thick, so that's basically a foot or two in thickness. And that's the actual situation. So let us just have a look at some of this area that they just sort of, point out as just some sort of strange anomaly in their write-up. So, so this is the sea ice thickness it shows. So according to this, the colour chart, all of this area is roughly 1 meter thick, and all of this area here is somewhere between 0.5 and 1 meter thick, if that. So let's just actually have a look at what is happening on the ground. Yesterday was actually quite a good day to capture this. I was able to follow along the same 150 degrees east line right through. Practically here goes the 80 degrees north line right through to the pole. So you can see that's not exactly healthy ice. Everything on each side of that was covered by cloud. So let's just go from there. We go in towards the pole a little bit. Oh, sorry. Oh, God. Yeah, we started with this. So this was the area around the 80 degrees north. We've just seen the bit where we went in slightly, so I'm not going to show that again. And then we're going to skip over that, and we're going to go to this. And this, you can see the North Pole here. You can see a much wider area here, and even kind of I don't know, 500 kilometers from the pole, from the pole, you're getting breakup of ice and cracks. So in effect, there's not really an area that has healthy ice. If you head on the sort of Greenland and Canadian side, it's a little bit different. That's the last remaining area of even vaguely thicker ice, and we can see from the representation from the US Navy site that in fact even that is less than 2 meters thick. So yeah, so that really shows how the situation has been grossly misrepresented, and this is the way it's going to be reported. Nobody has reported, nobody has said boo about the cyclone in the Arctic and its effects. And in fact, I think, yeah, we're looking at fraud and lies. Lies by omission are the main form of lies these days. Just have one other thing that I want to look at, because someone disingenuously suggested that perhaps I didn't have any proof that this was the result of the cyclone. They're trying to sort of disprove that it kind of, I don't know whether it existed or not, or that it had any effects. And in fact, they actually suggest something that was a lot worse than that, by saying that perhaps it was like this before the storm. So I just decided, and I can't sort of really prove it, so I'm just going to go through now. Most of August was just absolutely covered in cloud, and it's only the last few days, actually since the storms, that we've been able to see this. So let's just go through. So that's, yeah, it's the 28th. 27th, 26th. So, and this, yeah, this is just after the storm, the 25th. So you can't really see what's happening beyond this area. The 24th, you can't really see very much at all. And you can't see anything at all there. This is the 22nd. 21st. Yeah, you can see a little bit there, but you can't see anything around the pole. And yeah, 19th, 18th. Can't see anything at all there. 17th, 16th. So I suspect that it's sometimes very difficult to distinguish between cloud and what is actual. Uh, so this actually gives us a clue. Yeah, so that that gives us a clue. There's a little bit of breaking up of the ice going back. That's to the 15th, but nothing like what it was before. So that's the 14th, the 13th, the 12th, 11th, 10th, 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. So that's through the month of August. So basically, apart from one day in the middle, I think it was the 15th, which showed a little bit of breakup. You can't really tell what's happening close to the pole, but what you've been able to see in the past few days since the cyclone cleared uh, should be clear to anybody. Anyway, that's enough from me. This is Seymour Rock.